Hi, everybody. Anthony Burrows here with Life and Finances with Sacrifice and Service. Today I'm going to speak on buying Bahamian things that's Bahamian, saving our economy through local purchases. But before I go into that, I had some eventful things transpired this week. The first one being the death of my father in law. Yesterday morning, between 1 a.m. and I'd say 7 a.m., he died while sleeping, which I guess to us is a peaceful and a good way to go. But you know what? He was the bedrock of his family, and he was the type of person which is he would starve to make certain that everybody in his family ate, that all of his children and his wife ate. His name was Clarence Rowell Sr., born 1946, passed away November 2020. And I have fond memories of him. I can recall sometime traveling as a family, a group of us, my family with his and all of us. And we're in the hotel, and late into the night, we'd be playing dominoes, eating different foods and what have you, going out to restaurants as large groups, and just enjoying summertime and Christmas time. Unfortunately, this Christmas, we won't be able to do any traveling. Then I can recall he had a stern practice which was 5 a.m. on Mondays. And the way he would do is family worship, just get all the family every Monday at 5 a.m. and have family worship. Because he believed that knowing Jesus in a deep and personal way was the way to anchor yourself as well as your family. One thing that stood out about him was that in all bleakness, he saw opportunity. But here's the thing about him, he was financially literate. He believed firmly in the purchasing of lands and owning the piece of property on which you live and the home in which you live. So then another thing that stood out is that at 74 years of age, he was an individual who was very computer savvy, very technical, smart, and was very futuristic in his thought process. So he was ahead of his time for someone in his age group, and he'll be severely missed by myself and his family. Hopefully the funeral will be coming soon as we go through the planning and whatever, but it was just yesterday that he passed. Then I had a wonderful experience, I should say, this week. Went to road traffic, this being my birth month, to uh, to license my vehicle. Now the competent authority has indicated that you can wait for up to 3 months during this period to license your vehicle. But I'm not comfortable going around with an unlicensed vehicle and then you're constantly stopped by the police and then you have to produce your insurance all the time. Sometimes I can be absent-minded, I may even lose it. So I figure, what? Let's get down there. I was admonished, boy, you better get down there early because the lines are going to be long, the service is going to be bad and slow and this and that. So 6:30 a.m., I went down there. There were about 60 cars ahead of me. I expected that they would start between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. To my surprise, they are beginning operations at 7:30 a.m. And they had like about 5 persons outside doing the inspection portion of it. That went by rapidly, real quickly. And then you went into the gated area and you never left your vehicle. Gave them all of the documents. By 9 o'clock, shortly thereafter, I was out of there. So I want to tip my hat to the road traffic department. And I want to say thank you for your service to us, I should say to we, the Bahamian public. I commend you for your service and say, keep it up, road traffic. You did a great job and you're doing a great job. The other department that I'm saying that's doing a tremendous job in the civil service entity far as customer service, and they are excelling beyond your wildest imagination. That's inclusive of private and public sector. They are just these two entities are the best. And the second one is the passport office, no less. Just tremendous service between road traffic and the passport office. Now, I want to clear up one item. Last week, when I did my presentation on age of consent, looking at the death rate for COVID-19 in the Bahamas, my calculations came to 7%, but I had accidentally hit some number that caused it to be higher. But the actual death rate in the Bahamas from COVID-19 is 2.3%, and the world death rate is 2.4%. So we are 0.1% lower than the rest of the world. So I do apologize for that and ask that any person who you have listened to it, that they'll realize that that 7% was out of whack. Now, when we look at buying Bahamian things, that's Bahamian supporting our local economy. One of the things that you must realize is that every time you spend a dollar, every dollar that's spent locally, 45 cents to 50 cents actually remains in the economy and circulates. Now, as it remains and circulates, it remains in the form of salaries. Persons getting the salaries then goes into the food stores. They go to the theaters. They go to the restaurants, pay their private school children fees, purchase books, pay utilities, and on, and that money just keep moving through the economy. Also, these persons will put some aside as savings, and by putting some aside as savings, it makes funds available so that individuals are then able to borrow and to get businesses or whatever loans that they may want to have. My thing though, when we think of buying local and supporting local entities, we look at the massive amount of foreign investment in our country. We as Bahamians, we tend to, those of us who hold on to a couple of dollars, like you found that persons who got with the BEC, the BTC, all of the different buyouts that have happened over the last years. And persons simply took those funds, socked them away in the bank, and some certificate of deposits, fixed accounts, maybe some government bonds and things of that sort, but didn't risk any of it to help grow the economy. So with the money just socked away there, most of the borrowing and loans that's done in our economy, more than 60% actually goes towards consumer loans. So, and consumer loans doesn't build the economy. It really doesn't, because it's all temporary things. It's just things that cycle through, recurring expenses. So, whereas if an individual is taking out a business loan, when he takes out a business loan, equipment, property, you got to get so many other purchases that expand the economy and changes the wealth when it goes for generations to come. So therefore, we have situations, foreigners come in, they make the investment, foreign direct investment, and by them doing this, they are showing that they believe in we the Bahamians more than we Bahamians believe in ourselves and each other. Now, we have to fix this. In order to take charge of our economy, first thing we got to start doing is buying from each other, trading goods and services among each other. Now, to this extent, I came across an article in the Guardian, in the Tribune rather, which says Buy Bahamian Initiative critical for 25,000 jobs. And so let's take a look at this article. And it starts by saying local companies join forces in a bid to drive behavioral changes. I noticed that behavioral changes among Bahamian consumers. And they're doing this with the intention of trying to preserve up to 25,000 jobs. Now, we know 54,000 Bahamians are currently unemployed because of the pandemic. So they want to preserve up to 25,000 jobs. Okay, unveiling the Shop Local campaign, an initiative created by the Bahamas Federation of Retailers, and that's new to me. And they're going on to say the economic devastation inflicted by the COVID-19 pandemic had made it even more vital for Bahamians to ensure the survival of local businesses and jobs by patronizing them over the next several weeks as they lead up to Christmas, because this is going to be the big boost to try at least save some jobs and save some vendors from closing down. The campaign is sponsored by, you go on to say, you got like the Mall at Marathon, Nassau, Cruise Port, Southwest Plaza, AID. Then you have some accounting firms, some law firms, some manufacturers and what have you in there. And the article is saying the retail and the wholesale manufacturer section rebound are relying heavily on a behavioral shift from we, the Bahamian people. And they went on to say, I cannot think of a more important initiative to support. Our local economy depends on it. Now, the success of manufacturers, the article continues to say, the success of manufacturers and all the jobs its support relies on Bahamians taking pride and supporting all that's Bahamian. We hope the important initiative will help to change consumers' hearts, minds, and shopping behaviors to strengthen local businesses, our economy, and our collective standard of living is dependent upon it. The Shop Local initiative will likely be aided, they're saying, at least in part, which is going to help, by the reluctance of Bahamians, as people like me and residents like you, whoever may be considered resident, their reluctance to travel abroad to shop in Florida and other U.S. destinations where they may be exposed to COVID-19, where it is reported that the COVID-19 is ranting and raging and raving in the United States. Now, the travel restrictions and border closures and the general uncertainty created by the pandemic, together with loss of jobs and incomes, will also discourage travel by locals. Remember, we said 54,000 persons without currently unemployed who were employed up to 9 months ago. And then here's other competition. Online shopping remains attractive and will likely present local merchants with their stiffest competition. To combat this, they're saying, the Shop Local initiative will feature radio ads, billboards, social media marketing, and newspaper ads designed to educate local consumers about the direct connection between their purchase decisions, jobs, and the Bahamian economy's health. They're saying, now here they go on, in this economic environment, consumers are rightfully careful, and you got to be careful about every dollar they spend. But they often assume that shopping abroad brings greater savings, and that is not always true. We know that's not always true. The landed cost of imported goods can often be higher than the cost of goods available locally. In addition, the added value, and there's nothing like touching, seeing, and feeling and going through the product, and then you don't have to say, hey, put it on the boat and then wonder, is it the same thing I purchased that they are sending or have sent? So they added, so touching the product in person and having quick access to it once purchased are further incentives to shop local rather than abroad. Not to mention, as the article continues, not to mention, it facilitates ease of exchange and, depending on the item, the ability to utilize product warranties which you would otherwise relinquish by shopping abroad. See, one of the things is too, when we purchase items from abroad, you have a situation where our dollar is usually fluctuates between 94 and 95 cents compared to the US dollar. And so you have a situation where when we are purchasing, we are actually paying $1 plus for the items, as opposed to just the straight dollar when you're at home, you know. And so please, over the next year, let's see how much purchasing we can do at home. If you're those type who go abroad, you get your toiletries and all of that when you travel and what have you, Let's make it an initiative that let's get all those at home. If you're getting your chips and all of the different things, just be diligent. Go from vendor to vendor. Go through the online. Use the phone and call the vendors. Go in and see the product, and you will be surprised that you will find bargains and savings that you'd be able to over the long haul. And then if when you do travel, we'll then make it an experience where it becomes an educational one, especially if you're moving with children and things of that sort. So as I move towards the end of this presentation today, I want us to bear in mind as I reflect and dedicate this to my father-in-law, Clarence Roll Sr., this particular presentation, I'm saying teach the children, just teach them. Tell them from whence we have come, the struggle that we have overcome. When I think of him, Clarence Roll Sr., he often spoke and shared his boyhood experience in Exuma, one of abject poverty. But how coming to Nassau and then having the majority rule taking place in 1967 and the impact it had on him and his family and the opportunities it provided. So teach your children, expose them, and help them to experience and learn about handling finances. Teach them that, hey, their value and worth is the same as outsiders. The things that they make are the same and equivalent to persons that's coming from abroad. That local is just as good. Then teach them and show them and walk and drive past some of the places the local manufacturers. Drive past Blanco. Drive past Mortimer Candy's Kitchen. Drive past, and maybe you can even go into some of these places. You know what I'm saying? Think of Aquapure and some of the other drinks and different places around Nassau. Let them see these places so that they will understand what it is to be Bahamian and to purchase the products. So when they purchase the candy, for instance, they'll visualize the place on the hill. When they purchase Brax and all of them, they can't visualize nothing. You see what I'm saying? And they're not building up themselves. Then the next thing, set something aside. Be it for the rainy day, be it for your projects, be it for whatever, but set something aside. Build a savings. Then purchase land. And after purchasing a land, purchase and to make sure that the home in which you live, you actually own it. All of this is building as being Bahamians and building up our nation. After owning a home, purchasing land, things of that sort, seek commercial entities or businesses that you can get started. Apply yourself. Let's go with our 1-year plan, our 3-year plan, and our 5-year plan. And then check with your plans frequently to see if you're staying on target. And one of the things I've learned from Mr. Roll is that, hey, don't squander time, because time waits on none of us. And I think of my biggest squandering of time. I can remember 1982, I joined the Department of Environmental Health as a health inspector with the intention of staying for 2 years. 2 years and then go back to school. 2 years turned to 13 years before I went back to school. Now, I'm sure a lot of valuable things I gained and learned during that time, but in reality, it was squandered time. So even while you're in the midst of your living, in the midst of paying mortgage, in the midst of paying rent, in the midst of buying grocery, paying your utilities and all of that, continue to pinch a little bit aside and plan and work towards a clearly defined destination. Don't let time sneak by on you and then you say, oh my Lord, where did the time go? Then the next question will be, where did the money go? So, until next time, may the God of heaven and his Son, the Christ, bless and prosper you. And I say, rest in peace, Mr. Roll, and may the God of heaven bless his family, and may we all see him on that resurrection morning. Thank you.